Hey, this is Angel. This is my fourth day in a row making videos like this. I'm super excited about that. I'm just like really trying to stay consistent with what I set out to do, and just like doing it for myself. And yeah, like the first couple videos I was making were talking about mental health, living with a dysregulated nervous system, what it's like recovering from that, healing from trauma, and being able to just like go about the day to day. Another video I had was talking about like finding ways to have ease in life, cultivating joy, and just like finding center. Today, something that came up for me was self worth and how that's tied to what we do. Um, I live in a place where I feel like celebrity culture is like really present. It's like just kind of always a topic, always around. Um, and it just like really made me start to think about like how uh, the idea of success and like the idea of valuing people based on like what they do and valuing different ways of achievements and like how that impacts like how we see people and like their identity. um it just really made me start to think like, I have goals, dreams, desires like everyone else, and it really just like made me start to think like if I never like did any of those things that like I wanted to do, like I imagine like to do, would that make me like any less valuable? And in my mind I'm like, of course not. Like I'd still be valuable. Like I'd still, like I'm still deserving, like I'm still worthy. That being said, I feel like this culture kind of creates like a hierarchy based on like what we do and like our impact. um and I think that that can be like really difficult with like while a lot of people are living with like low self-worth, low self-esteem. I think a lot of times too, like when people have like experienced trauma or have just like had a lot of like experiences that reinforce um like negative self feelings, I feel like it can be even more pressure, like even more present to think about like where our worth comes from. Sometimes like that can lead to not, I don't think it's like always intentionally like seeking validation, but just like feeling um like that feeling is relieved by receiving validation. And as much as like I want to be like, we should not live for validation from others, I don't think that I don't I don't think that like we should live for validation from others, but I do think that we live in a society that kind of still does. It's like even if we say that like as an individual we should not live for the validation of others, we live in like a society where there's so many things that reinforce getting validation from others, like gives you power, gives you access, like just the idea of like having like followers, having fans, like having a following. It's like those things really reinforce like a person's impact and like their just like ability to have worthiness like in the minds of like a lot of people. um and I don't think that it's like, I'm not saying that like that's wrong necessarily. Like I think that like people who do have like large followings, people who do have fans, like I feel like as much as someone could get a lot of love, like they can also receive like a lot of hate, a lot of backlash, like a lot of scrutiny. Like it seems just like very complex, like to have a lot of care and support on one side, and then it's like that can also be met with like the opposite, you know? But I think like what I'm kind of getting at too is that like if someone is like seeing that and we're all kind of saying like okay, like we're all collectively like agreeing that like people can have a form of like hierarchy like based on like what they accomplish, like what they achieve, how like great their impact is, it kind of makes like it's kind of like saying like other people are like not as valuable, not as like impactful, and like I think that that can be very hard like to just to like live with if we're having like constant like reminders of that. And I think that like we're always like as people like we always have the ability to like evolve. We always have the ability to try new things, like come into ourselves in like new ways, and we always have like new opportunities of like showing ourselves. But I think that if our self-worth is like determined on what we do, then it's it's like never really going to be enough in a way. You know, like there's always like ways of saying that like it's not enough. And so I'm trying to like reframe it for myself really in this way too, that like, you know, there's a lot of creative careers especially where it's like something that comes to mind is like music. Like I feel like there's a lot of like talk around music where there's like age limits, you know, it's like people like pop off in like their 20s and it's like okay, like that's success, you know, that's like successful. But it's like okay, like what does that mean for anyone who's not that age? What does that mean for anyone who does not like fit that standard or like fit those parameters? It's like the idea of like success even I feel like a lot of times is like very attached to like specific goals or like a certain amount of money or you know there's like these ideas of like what success is, but it's like if we're just imagining success to be like just like being happy, you know, it's like what you know what if someone doesn't like achieve the goals that they want, you know, what if someone isn't within the like standard of what it means to be like successful in this society. It's like that person is like still valuable, you know, like that person still like means something, and that person also still has like the ability to share, and their value doesn't just come from like what they do. It's just like it just is. And I think about that like for myself too. Like I'm a creative person. Like I love making things. I love experimenting, like um playing music, like just doing like a lot of different like creative things. But it's like if no one was around to be on like the other side of that, like if no one was like witnessing that, if no one was sharing or like partaking in that with me, like would I still be valuable without that validation? Would I still even like do those things without that? And it's like, you know, I would still be valuable. I would still be worthy. And in my you know in my case like I would still do all those creative things even if there was like no one to observe it, no one to participate, use it. Like if there was no one around, it's like I would still do it, just because that's something that like I want to do. I enjoy doing. But I think that like there's so much um like it's pressure. I think that it's like pressure, and I think that it's also a lot of like ideas that are a lot of noise that's like coming in that can like intertwine and like interfere with like internal noise too, especially like for people who've experienced trauma. Having like constant negative reinforcement or having experiences like that lead to like low self-worth, low self-esteem, is just like more on top of that to just say, okay, like this is what it means to be a high functioning person. This is what it means to be a successful person. It's like if we took all that away, like we're still of value and we still have, time and space to be able to like enjoy. And I think that like this societal like pressure really affects people like in the long run. I think that it can be like very hard to be taking in like while also like processing and like recovering. Um, like I think about it too. It's like maybe I have like impact in other ways, like maybe like just people that I interact with, like I can have like an impactful moment and it's like that is enough. Maybe someone has like an impact on me, it's like that is enough. Like that's enough. It's like we don't need to um be putting like a type of like pressure on like what we like how we are as a person, like what our value is as a person. Like we just are valuable. And we always have like time and space to like evolve and to share more and to do more. And like that's like part of the beauty of life. Like we, as long as like we're here, like we can get into new things. And that's like the exciting part too. And I feel like I'm just like really trying to like detach from like these ideas that like, there is like a certain kind of like goal that I need to achieve, or like there's like a height that like I need to reach. And I don't think that it means that like I'm not like striving or like I'm not still like trying to do stuff, but it's like it's for me. It's because I want to, not because like a certain number, a certain amount of people, a certain person, like anything is going to um like complete that or like fill that in some way. And I think that it's also helpful because sometimes like we want things and we get those things and the desire goes away. It's like that like feeling that um filling up, like it's not even like present anymore. It's just like okay, like that happened. It's just like it just is now. Um so yeah, so I'm just really trying to reframe this because I think that like it can also, I think for me, like it helps me like be more creative because I'm not putting so much pressure on like the outcome of what's going to like lift me up to like a certain status or anything like that. It's like more of just like being like a conduit for my creations. It's like my creations can like they can like live separate from me. I can be separate from it. I can still like be the one to like facilitate it and like to bring that about and like have that experience and like share that experience with others. But it does not have to be like the only thing that is like defining me. I think that that can be like a really rigid way of just like that's like a really rigid feeling. Like there's like a lot of like pressure in that. And what I'm trying to do is just like really find a way to have like more peace, more ease, like more center so that I'm not having to define my self-worth based on what I'm doing or like where I am in my life. I recently had a conversation with someone close to me, and we were talking about like getting our lives together and how they were saying that that's like a mythical thing. It's like it's a myth like to be like getting your life together. And I like totally agreed because I'm just like, yeah, like we can have this like image of like where we should be or what we should be doing or based on like a certain time frame in our lives, but it's like the reality is like we're just here, like we're just living the way that life plays out. That's how it plays out. Like we could be having, like a lot of routine, a lot of just like activity like in one moment of our lives, and then like maybe something happens and like that brings us into like a different kind of season in our life, and like all of that is okay. It's like we're constantly fluctuating, and that is okay. And that allows flexibility so that we don't need to feel like we're supposed to be anywhere in life. It's just like we just are. And that can change, that changes all the time. And if we have a separation between where we are and where we want to be, then that means that there's still possibility to be where we want to be. It's just about, taking ourselves with some grace while we go along the journey. Um, that's how I feel. That's how I see it. I think that that's like really helping me so that I can feel like I can be creative without the added like stress of what the outcome is, what it's like supposed to be, or trying to like achieve something. And that doesn't mean that I'm not still trying, or that I'm not still like striving for things or going after things that like, I want. That's still like very much like a part of life, but I think it like helps so that if we need to pivot at a certain point, if we try something and decide to do something else, like there's still room for that. Like there's still room for that. It's just, we're just living. Like we can change our minds, like we can do something different, we can try something new, and like all of that is okay. Like it's still up to us like how we want to choose to cultivate joy, how we want to choose to like live our lives, and like what brings us joy, what brings us happiness. Um that's what I feel. So I am grateful that you've watched, and stay chill. I'm hoping that we can chat again soon, and I'm just gonna keep trying to make these videos, just talking about things that come up as they come up on the day to day. I've been really enjoying it. So yeah, have a good night. Thanks for watching.